Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, I am Deneen and this is Design by Denine. If you're familiar with my channel, you'll know that I love to do Christmas cone trees, and I have done quite a few of them. I have linked up those videos for your convenience in the description box below. However, I decided to do something a bit different this time around, so I'm doing translucent Christmas cone trees that you can light up. And thanks for stopping by. And Merry Christmas! This is a piece of plastic poster board that I picked up at Michael's. It's semi-transparent, and it's 22 by 28 inches. To start, I drafted up 2 arcs at 14 and 16 inches. For this first cone, I'm going to use this really pretty sheer fabric that I found at the fabric store in the Christmas section, and it was 70% off. You'll only need a small piece of fabric for this project. You can probably find something in the remnant section. It only needs to be about 14 or 16 inches wide. I've placed the plastic cutout on top of the fabric, and I'm just using a silver Sharpie to trace around it. In retrospect, I think it worked better to just glue the plastic poster board onto the fabric like I did in the second cone tree, but either way will work fine. Now a little bit of spray adhesive. And then I place the fabric on top. No worries if you don't get it perfectly flat the first time, because that's one of the beauties of using spray adhesive is you can reposition it. After a bit of trial and error, I found the most efficient way to put these cones together is by first using a piece of clear packing tape to hold the inside of the cone together. And then I ran a bead of E6000 down the seam. And then I used a bit of painter's tape to hold it closed while the E6000 dried. To add a little bit of extra Christmas sparkle, I decided to add these rhinestones. And I added them everywhere where there was a little end to one of the swirls. Some of the swirls have kind of a little circle end, and that's where I added the rhinestones. To ensure that they stayed in place, I used a little bit of white glue to attach them. They are adhesive rhinestones, however, they do have a tendency to want to fall off over time, so I used a little teeny bit of white glue and then put the rhinestone on top. Because this just happened to be the right size, I took the outside of a Dollar Tree mirror and gave it a coat of silver Rust-Oleum. For this next cone tree, I'm also using sheer fabric that I picked up at the fabric store. I have my translucent cone shape cut out, and I'm going to apply the spray adhesive to the smooth side. Here you can see the spray adhesive on the smooth side of the plastic poster board, which I've let dry to a tacky finish. Then I just apply it sticky side down onto the wrong side of the fabric. For this Christmas cone tree, we are going to use 3D iridescent fabric paint. This is really straightforward. Just apply the fabric paint onto the snowflake design. Be mindful, however, not to run your hand over the wet paint. Allow the paint to dry thoroughly. I let it dry overnight. In some instances, you can do multiple snowflakes without getting your hands in the way of the wet paint. As you can see, I've done all the whole snowflakes and avoided those closest to the edges. This makes it easier to turn our flat piece of plastic into a cone. Then we'll address all of the leftover snowflakes near the edges. I sprayed the underside of one long edge with spray adhesive. Then I took a piece of packing tape and applied it to the other side. Then roll the cone together, aligning the edges as best you can. The clear packing tape is on the inside of the cone. To keep the stiff plastic from popping back open, I also applied a bead of E6000 in the seam. Tape it closed and let it dry overnight. And once everything's dry, we can fill in the rest of those snowflakes around the edges. And the last thing we're going to do is we're going to add a little bit of embellishment using some gemstones. I decided to go with blue for obvious reasons, to keep things nice and monochromatic. These are self-adhesive and come in strips, and you can just rip off one gemstone at a time. And I am applying them in the center of the snowflakes. I find it's easier to place them by first attaching them onto the end of an X-Acto blade, and then it makes them nice and easy to put into place. I think this tree looks especially nice lit up in blue. This next video is one that I did last year. Originally, I paired it with some Christmas angels, but I felt like it fit nicely with this group, so I'm including it here. I hope you enjoy it. I'm starting out this project using Dollar Tree plastic chopping mats. I'm going to be making a cone out of this chopping mat, so I'm using a piece of string and a Sharpie. You want to tie your string around the Sharpie. I'm just using my finger to hold down the one end of the string, and then I'm just going to use the Sharpie to draw an arc. And be careful to not let your string go slack like I just did. You don't really need to clean this up because you probably won't see it anyway, but I'm using a little bit of non-acetone nail polish remover to clean the Sharpie off of the cutting mat. And now I'm just cutting it out. I'm using this Lacey placemat that I got from the dollar store, and I'm going to just place my cutout cone shape, which is not yet folded up, on top of the placemat, and I'm going to trace around all the edges, centering it as best as possible and drawing on the back side of the placemat. Because these cutting mats are quite stiff, I'm going to use some painter's tape to hold it in place while my glue is drying. I started by folding the cutting mat into a cone shape and then taping the bottom section. And then I used a couple more pieces of tape to hold the rest of the cone in place. The cutting mats are quite stiff, so you'll probably want to pre-cut your pieces of tape before you start bending it into place. And then I squeezed a bit of E6000 into the section of the cone that was folded over onto itself. I added some more tape to reinforce it, and then I let it dry overnight. Once the glue had dried overnight, I removed the painter's tape, and then I used clear packing tape to reinforce the seam. You could probably just get away with the packing tape, but I've used both just to ensure it doesn't come apart. I ran the packing tape down the length of the cone, and then I folded it over on the bottom section. I reinforced the pointed top of the cone using clear Scotch tape. Now it's time to cut out our placemat. I've moved it onto a surface that I can glue on, and I flipped it wrong side up. I'm using spray adhesive. Give the wrong side of the placemat a generous coating of spray adhesive, and then give it a few minutes to tack up. Keep the back side of the cone facing up so that all your seams will be in one area. Place the cone front side down in the center of the placemat. Use your hand to stick the cone to the placemat, and then fold up one side first and then roll onto the remaining side. Stick down as much as you can using your fingers, and we'll attach the rest using hot glue. It's a good idea to use a finger protector when you're doing this because the hot glue will make its way through the lacy pattern of the placemat. I decided to reinforce the seam with another piece of clear packing tape. This is on the back side of the cone, so you shouldn't see it. Trim away any overage from the placemat hanging over the edge of the cone. I'm going to be using this RGB light that I got from Amazon, I'll link it below, to light up the interior of our lacy Christmas cone tree. Look at how comfy it looks nestled amongst a bunch of my silver and white Christmas cone trees. I've done a lot of these cone trees, and if you're interested, I've linked the video to all of them in the description box below and above. The fun thing about this one is that you can change up the colors to match your decor.